So it's Halloween, trick or treat. Uh-oh, that don't look right. Rear axle snapped on the 4650. Luckily there's not much in the cart. I'm gonna try to get it unloaded. The field's dry, so we'll put the truck up here next to it. And I'm not exactly sure how you load this on a lowboy. Somebody will have a trick out there for me, but she dug in the ground pretty good. We'll figure it out. Somehow we'll get her jacked up, telehandler or something, and get it on the lowboy, get her home. Piece of cake. Better go guide him.
There's something missing on that tractor. So we've got the 4650 in the shop. It's safely jacked up and cribbed in a couple different spots. We have the oil draining out of it. So now comes the tedious task of changing the rear axle. So we have to support the cab, take this cab mounting bracket out of the way, pull the ring of bolts off of the axle housing, separate the planetary inside from the sun gear. Once we get this housing out and on the ground, we'll get the old axle out. We have a set of bearings and races for the outside and inside. Get those changed. Get everything back together. One of the hard parts of this job, in our opinion, is going to be getting the old axle off of the old wedges. Sometimes they fall right apart. Other times you can fight them for days. So we will hope that that is not the case. So as we tear into this project, we'll keep you posted.
So here we are. We got the cab supported. Fancy blocks of wood there. We got her supported under here. We got her sitting down. Blocks under there. All the bolts are out except one here that's loose, one on the front that's loose, and this baby won't let loose. So we don't know what's going on, why it's so tight. We think they use super glue to hold this axle on, but we're gaining on it. We're going to try getting her off here. So the axle housing was safely removed. So Troy's got it ready to come off. Got to take that bolt off in there. Then the planetary is going to come out. And then we believe the axle isn't too hard to get out after that. I think there's a couple snap rings in there. Should come apart. The brakes look surprisingly good too on this thing.
So we got the housing off the tractor, and I didn't expect it to come apart as easy as it did. This shaft here, that's the axle. This is your outer bearing. Here's your inner bearing that rides right here. So this spline's stuck up here. I tapped it with a hammer, and am I surprised that the bearing popped free out of this race. So now I've got to get the races out. So we've tried with a slide hammer, just tapping them. It's not really working out so good. So what we're gonna do now is an old trick. We're gonna take a bead of weld. It doesn't have to be pretty, just has to be hot. Go all the way around the inside here. This should just shrink and heat things enough that this race should pop right out of there. So we'll give that a try. And then once we get that out of there, you can see the seals in here. We'll get the seal replaced, or get that one out, get everything nice and clean, then start reassembly, put our seal in, our races, top and bottom, or inside and out. The new axle is still in the box here. We'll get that out, look that over, start reassembly. We'll keep you posted. So we got the old races out, pressed in the new races, and as you see, we've got the axle here. Put in a new seal, we've got the seal greased. We've got the splines on the axle, they're greased. Got our outer bearing on, the races in there. Got our seal greased, using a transmission jack so we can tilt it one way or the other. Got it supported with the cherry picker or engine hoist. Gonna slide them together. We gotta just be careful that we don't wreck our seal with our splines on that axle shaft. So we'll slide that in. Then we'll get our planetary in. We've gotta set the bearing end play once we get that in. And then we'll get everything torqued, get it all back together. I'm back on the tractor.
So I know we didn't show much of the reassembly, but she's back together. So we pulled it in, or backed it in technically on the low boy, and it worked really well. So Troy got her back together, got the torque set. It slid together nicely. When we put it back together with the tow motor, it went right in like it's supposed to. So she got new hydraulic oil, new filters, new axle. We debated on putting lube or Never Seas or penetrating oil on here, but we put it back together dry. Yeah, we got to wash up the rim. It's a little bit dirty. Some of that's from penetrating oil. We were afraid that this was going to come apart hard, but once we got the axle back on, we had the duals on the back of the trailer. We'd set them down. The dual hub come off easy. This one, put it down on the ground, laying flat, and we've got a special tool made up, a sleeve that goes over the axle and pushes in on the wedge, and probably 20 good hits with a sledgehammer, that wedge come loose. So we got her tight. We're gonna back her off the trailer. Troy's gonna take it for a ride, run it back and forth, the head and back, and try to see if we can't loosen that wedge up a little bit. Pull it back in, service the rest of the tractor, and put the dual back on it, and she's gonna be ready for spring work. So it wasn't as bad as I feared, but the old girl's ready for another season, hopefully. That looks better. There she goes. Complete again. We thought we were doing a great job videotaping our progress on the 4650 axle, but then we got busy and we stopped doing such a good job. So there it is. We got it hooked to the neighbor's grain cart. We use that to sometimes take grain out of the bins, and then when the truck pulls in, we can just load it quick. So the axle's back together. We're glad to have the old girl. We figured nothing will stress it out and test it like a 800 bushel grain cart. So glad it's back together. Thanks for following along. I wasn't very upset when it happened in the field. Some of my friends are like, don't you get upset when things like that happen? Every time something happened to our old equipment, I got upset. I'd be upset all the time. So Troy's a phenomenal mechanic, got it back together. We're glad to have the old girl. We may have a new tractor coming. We'll keep you updated on that. So we're talking about buying something bigger, newer, and better. So, but the 4650 not going anywhere. We're still going to use it. Great tractor. So we got some plans for that, and we'd like to keep it on the grain cart. So thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing. I always appreciate your comments. So we will see you next time on The Way We Farm.